Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Sarah Stevens Tuesday Forum. My name is Laura McCletty, and I am one of the facilitators along with Winston Robinson, Mary Johnson, Saritha Sherrill, and Natalie McGarrett. Natalie McGarrett, I want to raise your hand, Natalie. She is our timekeeper. Please respect her when she shows her sign for you to stop talking or end your discussion. Please respect that. We also have Carlinia Canty, Ivory Canty, who was one of our facilitators. She hasn't come in yet. And we have Jackie Edward Walton, who's one of our facilitators. We have a musician, Dr. Thomas Moore, who's not with us this morning, but Steve Johnston, who is the person that's responsible for, or that is the person that does provide you with email about the Tuesday Forum, as well as he does our live streaming and Facebook Live. We always like to start off with the word of prayer, and Saritha will lead us in a word of prayer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Bow your heads and let's pray together, please. Father God, we are so thankful for today. We're thankful for the weather. We're thankful for each other. We're thankful for this forum. Bless our children every place. Bless our nation everywhere and everybody connected with the running of the nation. Remember our children in Ukraine. Remember our children in Israel. They are helpless. They don't even know what's going on. God, we know this is your day, and we know you made it. We're just living in it. Bless us as we stay focused to get the word out to our people, particularly to vote. Whatever you do, November, vote. It's in your Son Jesus' name I pray. Let us say together, Amen.
Thank you so much. This is from our young person here, Winston, who always asks us to for a time of silence, and that means that we would like for you to silence your phones. Thank you. Now, we would like to ask if we have, I see some new faces, first-time visitors. And if you are here for the first time, if you would stand and introduce yourself. Do we have any first-time visitors? Oh, wow, this is great. I guess we together.
Yeah. I'm Farad Morales. I'm going to be a part of the panel as well. I'm Farad Morales. I'm going to be a part of the panel as well. I'm from Inner Explorer. Not currently, this is my first time ever being in this building. So I'm excited to see and meet the people in the building as well.
Welcome.
Ricky Singh, Executive Director of My Brother's Keeper. Not my first time at the forum, but it's been a minute. Pre-COVID days, but excited to be here today.
Thank you. Welcome. Any other first times? Okay, we welcome you for sharing your time with us this morning, and would like to let you know that you're welcome to come back at any time. We're here almost every Tuesday throughout the year, with the exception of holidays and when we vote. So we would like for you to come back and be with us and invite your friends. And if you can't visit with us, we do have live streaming as well as Facebook Live. We want to share with you, we have our speaker has brought some goodies for us this morning. So feel free to partake in that with his permission. Feel free to, you can just go back and get it and continue to be with us. And for our speaker and the others that are here for the first time, we have people that come in. We start at 8:30. We like to get started at 8:30, but we have people that may come in respectfully and they will leave respectfully. And there are a few rules we have for is that we allow our speaker to present, and once our speaker presents, we take questions from the audience, and once we take the questions, we recognize you by a show of hands, and to be as fair as possible. If you will raise your hand, we will put your name down, and we would allow you to ask your question, and naturally we'll share with you the time that you have to ask your question and the time that's given up to the response from our speaker. So we ask you to respect that as well. We also have coffee that we have on a regular basis. And we do have a coffee fund. Feel free to donate. If not, we're good. But we'd like to just let you know that that's there. So with that being said, it's one other thing that people don't, who would like to share with individuals is the fact that we have been in this building for a few years, and this is part of the city of the county's building, and they have awarded us this space to use every Tuesday morning, and we can appreciate that, and we ask that, you recognize the fact that the city is helping us to make this happen because we are all volunteers. I think I may have failed to mention Mary Johnson's name is one of our facilitators, and she has come in. So just know that she's here with us, and most of us that are volunteers, it's about 7 or 8 of us that volunteer. And if anyone is willing to volunteer to work with us in any capacity, feel free to let us know, because we are very committed to making sure that we keep our community informed. Okay, now I'm going to get to introducing our speaker this morning, which we're very proud to have Mr. Sam Smith with GreenLight, who will share with us information about his organization and the successes that they've had with the organization, and the things that we can do to assist in any way as possible. Now I'm going to turn it over to Natalie so she can share with you the process that we go through in allowing our speaker to speak, and let him know how much time he has, and you at the audience, how much time you have to ask your question and respond.
It's really up to you how long the question, but depending on how many questions we have. So how long is the presentation? 25 minutes?
Probably like 10 minutes.
Oh.
I'll take 25 to do it.
Yeah, you got 25 minutes for your presentation.
Okay, and we ask you to 30 seconds questions, and you can respond since you're by yourself for as long as you need to.
Sure.
So by the show of hands, we will have the questions after he does his presentation.
Good morning, everyone. First, I will ask all of the portfolio organization leaders to please join me here. As they're joining me, I will quickly introduce myself. My name is Sam Smith Jr. I have the honor and pleasure of leading a organization called GreenLight Fund, and I will share a little bit more about the organization in a second. A little bit about me. I was born in Monrovia, Liberia, in West Africa, so the accent may come out as I'm speaking. I have been in the States pretty much all of my life. Grew up in Detroit and came down to Charlotte 11 years ago for work. About 7 or 8 years ago, I transitioned from the higher education space to go into the nonprofit space, where I worked at the United Way for several years before taking my role here with GreenLight. I have been to the forum many, many times. Typically, I'm in the forum when there's a election season, so you all start seeing me again because I know we're going to that season. And I've always gained a lot every time I came to the forum, from relationships to the knowledge that is always being presented here in this space. So thank you all for the space that you've created for us to kind of learn. But thank you for this opportunity for GreenLight Fund to share about the work that we're doing here in Charlotte, and allowing these great portfolio leaders, these great organizational leaders to share a little bit with you about what they do and how you all can get connected with their work here locally. So I'll take a few minutes to share a little bit about GreenLight, and then we'll hear from the portfolio organizations, and we'll take questions after.
I would normally give you a clicker,
Okay,
but it doesn't work.
okay,
So you just tell me, next slide.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next slide.
No, of course.
Well, while he's pulling that up, just kind of give you a brief history about GreenLight. So GreenLight Fund was founded about 20 years ago in Boston, Massachusetts. It was founded by John Simon, who is a investor, and Margaret Hall, who was a nonprofit consultant. They founded GreenLight because 20 years ago in Boston, they saw that there were a lot of issues in the community, specifically in Boston, and there were a lot of resources there. There was a lot of community leaders, a lot of programs, a lot of things, but still the gap wasn't being closed. So they founded GreenLight as an opportunity to explore the country and see what other programs that are out there that could be embedded into their local community, specifically Boston, to close those specific gaps of issues that was happening in that community. So GreenLight was founded through that. They ran the program for several years, and back in 2013, 2014, they were able to get some funding from the Obama administration to expand GreenLight outside of Boston. The first extension of GreenLight was in Philadelphia, where they did a lot of great things. And then they went west coast to the Bay Area, where they continue to do good things. Charlotte, North Carolina was GreenLight's sixth expansion of Sixth City. And we came to Charlotte back in technically we came here in 2018, but we didn't run our first program. We didn't bring in our first program until 2019. GreenLight is currently in 13 major cities. We are going to be in 15 major cities by the middle of next year, and hopefully 16 major cities by the end of next year. Our ambitious goal is to be in 25 major cities doing a lot of great things that you'll hear about in a second. 25 major cities within the next 7 to 10 years. So we are rapidly growing, we're expanding, and again, we are coming in communities and closing gaps and making changes at scale at different levels. Am I ready for the next slide?
If you come back a couple weeks.
really, a couple weeks?
Is that to get this thing to work?
Next Tuesday, Sam, next Tuesday.
Please.
Actually, do you have it on your computer by any chance? And my colleague Ashley Gibbons and I work together, and I'll share a little bit about our work back here. Thank you. Good luck seeing this. But just wanted to kind of talk about why GreenLight ended up in Charlotte. So back in 2016, we had the Keith Lamont Scott shooting. After the Keith Lamont Scott shooting, there was a lot of studies, there was a lot of research, there were a lot of things that were being lifted up about Charlotte. One of the things that kind of popped up or bubbled up to the top was that Charlotte ranked 50 out of 50 when it came to upper mobility. Simply put, we all know this, if you're born in poverty in Charlotte, you're more likely going to live and die in poverty in Charlotte, which is very unfortunate. So how our model worked, when we came to Charlotte, we wanted to see how GreenLight could possibly support the many recommendations that were presented by the Leading Opportunity Report that stated that if you really want to take people, communities out of poverty, there are 3 specific things that you have to start doing. The first, and they're not in any particular order, but the first, you have to focus on college and career readiness. You have to focus on early care education, and you have to focus on child and family stability. So the work that we do at GreenLight encompasses all of those things. Our goal is to move family upwards on the upper mobility scale, and through the economic mobility diagram, if you look at it that way. So everything that we do, again, is perfect. Thank you.
I'll do my best, Sam. Just give me
All right, thank you. So everything that we do is centered around the recommendation within the Opportunity Task Force report, and we ensure that the work that we do is certainly the organizations that we're bringing in are certainly moving the needle within any of those three spectrums and or the recommendations that were presented. Next slide, please. All right, I'll go back here. Hold on. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ashley. So this is the GreenLight team. So it's myself, it's my colleague, Ashley Gibbons, who is very instrumental in seeing that our work here is done in Charlotte and is done successfully. I also want to shout out my colleague, Paula, who is also here with us, Paula Brown. Paula served on our national team. And I'll share a little bit about how all of this works in a second, but Paula serves on our national team and Ashley and I are on the local Charlotte team. So our GreenLight is structured. We have a national team that's all across the country. So we have support from the portfolio team, which is where Paula served. The portfolio team are the other group that go out across the country and vet out organizations that may possibly be a good fit for expansion. And you'll hear a little bit more about all of them in a second. We have our finance team that support the local team from our finances. We have our Marcom team who supports stuff on marketing, the color scheme that you see, the branding and all of that. So a lot of that is really centered on our national team, and Paula is here with us today. She serves on our national team, but lives here in Charlotte. So in Charlotte, over the 5 years that we've been here in Charlotte, we have done 4 great things. We brought 4 great organizations, Parent Child Plus, CEO, ATV, and Inner Explorer. We have served within those 4 organizations well over 15,000 people. GreenLight itself have invested upwards of $2.2 million in dollars leverage, meaning these organizations have went out and sourced their own funding, have been upwards of $5.6 million. One of the things that I'm proud of as a Black leader with this organization is that 100% of our portfolio organization are led by a person of color. Not only are they led by a person of color, they're led by someone who has some deep roots in our community, because they have to understand the community issue in order for us to move the needle and scale and change a lot of things here locally. Next slide, please. All right. So these are 4 portfolio organizations. Before I talk about the 4 portfolio organizations, I want to just kind of highlight very quickly how our model works. So every year we have what we call a selection process. So we do listening sessions in the community, we do focus groups, we go out to the communities and specifically ask the communities, what are some specific gaps? What are some things that we have all these resources for, but there is still a gap there? The community will give us a list of things. It could be anything: workforce, mental health, financial stability, housing. It could be an array of different things. We then present those things to our advisory board. We say, here are all the things that the community is saying. Here's what the research is that back everything that's being said from the federal, state, local level. Here's what we're seeing in the Opportunity Task Force report. Here's some of the things, some of the recommendations that have been presented and how we move the needle in some of these areas. The advisory board would then say, okay, we see all of these things that are in play. We see there are areas of opportunities, all these different areas, but maybe we should focus on these 3 specific areas because this is where we see Charlotte is going. So those 3 areas could be housing, it could be workforce, it could be financial stability, it could be mental health. Then it's myself, Paula, our whole team, Ashley. It's our job then to go across the country and identify organizations that are working within those specific area that has been identified. And we do a 1-year due diligence process with these organizations. We bring them into a local community to meet with partners like you all in the room. They meet with potential funders. They meet with elected officials, leaders in our community. And then we ultimately lean on those leaders and their advisory board to help inform us on which direction or what specific organization we should ultimately expand here to Charlotte. So again, we'll go through the process with the organization, once we've identified the organization, and then we work with the organization to expand them here locally. Time is limited, so I'm simplifying this. If you have any questions, please ask me at the end. So these are the 4 portfolio organizations that we have brought to Charlotte since we've been here in Charlotte. In 2019, we brought Parent Child Plus. Parent Child Plus focused specifically on literacy and early education. In 2020, we brought Center for Employment Opportunities. They're primarily focused on citizen reentry and employment and recidivism. In 2021, we brought Alternatives to Violence. They primarily focused on violent crime reduction. And again, we'll talk about each of these. You'll hear from each of these organizations in a second. And then in 2023, last year, we're happy to expand Inner Explorer that focused on youth mental well-being, and their program is specifically embedded within the curriculum within CMS and other community-based organizations. All right. So with that said, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to pass the mic to the 4 portfolio organizations. I'll have them introduce themselves. After they introduce themselves, they'll talk a little bit about their work and what they do. And then I will come back and ask some questions so they can share a little bit more, provide you all a little bit more insight about their work, and then we'll take questions at the end if that is okay.
Morning. My name is Angie Drakeford, and I am the North Carolina State Director for Parent Child Plus. Parent Child Plus is a home visiting curriculum. Happy to say we've been around since 1965, and we are currently in 17 states, 7 countries, and our most recent place where we have moved to is the DMV area in Baltimore, so really excited to get services going there. Basically what we do is we go into the home. If a child is in our program for the entire time, it would be a total of 46 weeks. So we go into the home twice a week. The first time we introduce an educational book or toy to the child and the caregiver. And the second time that week, we come in and we just observe the interaction between the parent and the child. And what this does is just really helps to foundation a relationship for the parent to have in their child's education, in their child's success. There are a lot of barriers, there are a lot of stereotypes out here that we have to come into the home and make sure that we let our families know we're not buying into those, and we're not allowing you to buy into those too. A person with a GED can certainly raise a person with a doctorate degree. It's not necessarily what you know, but it's how are you involved? Are you informed? Are you talking to the teachers? Are you making sure that you're keeping in constant communication with schools? These are the foundations that we build, although we're working with children at a very young age. We set the foundation so when they start pre-K, they are not behind. That is where our mission statement came from, and that is really why we started. We realized that we all know the 3rd grade rule of by the time you're behind in 3rd grade, we're pretty much behind the mark and we missed out. We also know that birth to 5 is the one time in your life where your brain is like a sponge. Whatever you put in there is that's going to stick. So how do we increase what we're putting in? And that's where Parent Child Plus comes into play here. My partners here in Charlotte are in Libyan, which is formerly the Charlotte Housing Authority. They do have a new nonprofit where they are providing 6 core services to their participants, and Parent Child Plus is one of those. My other partner is also Alliance Center for Education. We will be starting working with 5 families there in the fall. Also, we have Families First, where we're working not only with family providers, we are working with home-based child care providers as well. We want to make sure that when kids come from that type of environment, that they still have an educational structure. It's not, it's not just a neighbor just babysitting. We like to get away from that and help everyone to understand that these are still playing important roles in your future education. That's all that I have.
Next slide.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tiffany Miller. I am the site director for the Center for Employment Opportunities, or CEO in short. Our job is to help those who have recently been incarcerated be reacclimated back into our society by providing the resources that they need. The major resource that we are able to provide is job readiness training and making sure that they have transitional work where they do get paid every single day that they come out and work. They work 3 to 4 days a week. And then on that 5th day, they come into the office and they have a meeting with a job coach or a job developer to help them to retain full-time employment. We have been around since 1976, where we were founded by the Vera Institute in New York. And then in 1996, we became a nonprofit. In 2020, GreenLight brought us to Charlotte to service underprivileged people, individuals who have not been serviced. And so we're in Charlotte to help those who are recently released from incarceration or have a conviction, so that they have the tools and the resources that they need to be sustainable to citizens in our community.
It's on you. I will speak.
Yeah.
So the next program is Alternatives to Violence. We have our Nations Forward Urban League leader here with us. Unfortunately, Quasi is not here yet. He's in traffic, but I will speak a little bit about the Betty's Ford Road Initiative after you.
Thank you, Sam. So the Alternative to Violence movement started in the Betty's Ford corridor. Currently, there are 3 sites in our city and county: Betty's Ford Road, West Boulevard, and Nations Ford Road. Those locations were identified through collaboration of data research around violent crime clusters and areas of need. So I'm here today representing the Nations Ford Road site, which officially opened up, I would say, in November this past year. It's been a great kind of run. We're coming up on our first year. Our biggest goal in the ATV movement is to embrace the community and find ways to build long-lasting relationships where our staff can help to mediate conflict before other authorities need to be involved. So our staff works directly with individuals that might be risk averse, that might be coming out of the system, and helping to provide them some resources so they potentially don't make choices that makes them go back to the system. It also canvasses in the neighborhoods weekly and provides opportunities and activities for participants, key participants. So key participant for ATV is someone that might be risk averse between a certain age bracket, that might be more likely to make a decision that might cause violence in the community. So we try to do, to me, I think ATV is a proactive measure. And I think by working closely with the community and not so much with law authorities, we help to identify conflict way before it actually reaches the news. So how do we start to mediate conflict within the community together? And I mean, it's been a great run. The Nations Ford Roads area, as you know, is an interesting area. You have a light rail system that kind of a train system that kind of runs through it. It's a heavy Latinx population there as well. So they've spent the bulk of the year building connections with partners, particularly from Latinx origins, so that we can actually start to connect with many of those smaller communities in the Latinx area of the Nations Ford Road.
Thank you, Ricky. And the only other thing I'll add to that, because he summarized what the ATV program is. So we brought ATV to Charlotte back in 2021, primarily just being informed on the data around the homicide numbers in Charlotte, which is the highest since, in 2020, which is the highest since 1993. GreenLight was exploring violence-based programs. The city of Charlotte was exploring violence-based program. Mecklenburg County was exploring violence-based program. And in partnership with Wells Fargo, GreenLight, the city of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, were able to expand this cure violence model, which is based out of Chicago, was able to expand this model here locally in Charlotte. One of the highlights about the program is that within the first 2 years of the program, when we brought the program to Charlotte, we nested it in the LaSalle and Bettisford corridor, because what the data showed us was that that's where the hotspot was for violent crimes at the time. We nested it in that specific corridor, and within the first, he's here, and within the first 2 years of the program, the program was able to bring down violent crime, specifically homicide, down by 75% within that specific corridor. So now we are proud to say, and Ricky touched on it, that the program is now expanded outside of just LaSalle and Betty's Ford. It is now in Remount and West Boulevard corridor, and it's also in the Nation's Ford corridor. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm turning to the local leader for our Betty's Ford Road and West Boulevard corridor. If you could introduce yourself and share a little bit about ATV within those two specific corridors.
Good morning, everyone. Apologize for my tardiness. Thank you guys for coming out. My name is Kwesi Punsa. I am the program manager for the Youth Advocate Programs, Alternatives to Violence, that serves the West Boulevard corridor and the Ford corridor. Our teams are carefully selected as individuals with lived experience, meaning that they come directly from those communities and they're part of those communities. They've spent their lives in those communities. They have either been impacted by violence themselves or formerly incarcerated, or in their past may have been perpetrators of violence. So now they're doing their due diligence to serve those families and the youth in those communities. We have two teams, as I said, and the work that they're doing is called community violence intervention. And I like to always make it very clear to tell people that community violence intervention is not just a program, it's a mission, it's an objective, and it's agenda for people from the community to go back into the community and empower the people in the community. So when we work with individuals in those communities, it's not just mentoring, it's not just outreach. We take our time and we try to connect with those who are high risk. And high risk is very much different from someone who's at risk. And just really quick to explain, a high risk individual is usually someone who's been through mentoring programs. They've been through the justice system, they've been just as involved, they may not have a stable home environment, and these are individuals who are given up on. And a lot of times it's hard to reach them. So who better to reach them than someone from their environment who has the lived experience, who's not going to give up on them and not going to reject them, right? So we go out into the community Tuesday through Saturday and make contact and build relationships with these individuals. And our goal is to let them know that although they have their obstacles and their challenges, someone's here to try and help them out. And it's a very tough task, but this is something that takes a lot of passion and a lot of courage to do, and we're happy to be able to do it.
Thank you, Percy. And the last organization is Explorers for Mike Circle.
Can you hear me? Good. I am Farad Morales. I am the Regional Director for Inner Explorer here in Charlotte. And what we do is we focus around youth mental health. I'm a firm believer in you can't teach a kid until they're ready to learn. Sometimes being ready to learn isn't having a book, isn't having a pencil, it's having the mental capacity to be ready to learn. And what we did was we created a series of audio guided practices that help foster resilience, help build stress relief, and help build problem solving. It's for our students as well as for our educators as well. So also not just focusing on the children being ready, but our educators as well who are teaching our children, giving them a chance to be ready also. With our platform as well, we also falter into our parents because we got to get the whole child also. So we can't just look at the scholars and the teachers, but also how we help in the parents as well. So what these audio guided platforms do is 5 to 10 minutes of sitting in the moment, eyes closed, heavy breathing, deep breathing, just so we can get focused into our inner selves, which will help foster better decision making as well. Currently, we started a year ago, and I'm in over 30 locations here in Charlotte, schools and after-school programs as well. We are helping over 17,000 children, as well as over 5,000 teachers as well here in Charlotte.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank each of you for sharing a little bit about your organization. So we're going to do a quick Q&A with the leaders, and after that, we'll do maybe one question question each, and then after that, we'll come back and take questions from the audience, and then we'll have some additional questions if we have the time. If that's okay.
Just to let you know, we facilitate the questions.
Oh, okay.
No.
Oh, ask my questions.
Yeah, you ask your questions, and you're asking them to your panel.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. And we will take the questions from these individuals,
Yes,
we'll
ma'am.
identify them,
Got it.
and they will indicate who they would like to answer the question.
Got it.
They're directed to that person.
Got it.
You'll see
And
people
I-
raise their hand, that's not for you.
Okay.
But just as information too, I don't do names very well, that's not an excuse, but if I just say you in the white shirt, or you in, young lady, you in the red, or whatever, please do not feel, I just can't remember the names.
You're like, no, I'm gonna raise my hand, you know, let me to have a question
Got it.
when we get to our question.
I think we have a question.
No. You do your question. You give your question to your panel.
Got it.
Then we'll ask questions from these individuals. We'll handle that.
Yeah, this is what happens when you don't come for a long time. You forget
Right.
the rules in the room, so I apologize. All right, so I'm gonna ask the panel a few questions, again, just more so just to get the community a little bit more educated about the work that each organization is doing. And Ms. Angie, I'm gonna start with your Parent Child Plus. So Parent Child Plus have had a great success here in Charlotte. You talked about it a little bit. One of the highlights that we highlight and talk about a lot, especially when I'm speaking with donors or community members, is that Parent Child Plus have 100% placement rate. So that means every child that's touched within this Parent Child Plus program is enrolled in some form of a pre-K program. I don't know about you all, but that's really unheard of in the community with all the different programs that we have going on. So Ms. Angie, can you talk a little bit about how, just talk a little bit about that achievement, and then also how is PC Plus closing the achievement gap for children and families in Charlotte?
Sure. Well, I will say that is definitely one of our proudest statistics. I know at one time the North Carolina Pre-K and the MEC Pre-K programs were having a lot of problems getting kids enrolled. And what we found out was that a lot of parents were treating pre-K more so like childcare as opposed to preparation for actual school. There wasn't a big push if you're not feeling well to get the kid to school, not really worrying about attendance. And I do think with our home visiting program, we build trust and relationships. That trust and going into someone's home and becoming more like a friend, mentor, family than just someone coming by and providing a service. We've seen that from a qualitative perspective, just impact our program in so many ways. The pre-K enrollment, the higher scoring on the DECA and Brigance when we look at being ready for kindergarten. Our scores are coming in 30% higher than those who are not participating in our program right now. We have statistics all the way up through high school and college entrance that show participating in our program, does impact us that way. So when we talk about that gap and that achievement sample, going back to that question, we're just making sure that our parents are informed, engaged, involved. Just developing that love of learning. It's honestly just that simple. What I like to let people know here in Charlotte too is that we do have a large part of our community. Childcare is extremely expensive, and it's also priced for those who have childcare resources or those who have means that other parents do not have. So if you're out here and you don't qualify for childcare resources, you're really struggling trying to make ends meet. We come in and help out in those situations as well, because the fact that you may have to look to someone else for childcare does not mean that you should be shorted on the educational piece. So we're coming in and making sure, again, those home-based childcare centers have the tools and have everything that they need.
Great, thank you. And for the sake of time, I'm not gonna have follow-ups, but we're gonna have questions from the audience at some point. So I'm gonna jump to ATB just really quick. So now I'll start with our Betty's Ford, LaSalle, and West Boulevard Remount corridor leader. So when I'm out in the community, or again talking to funders, and I'm talking about ATB, one of the things that I like to highlight about ATB is the 75% crime reduction within 2 years that's another thing, in my opinion, that's really unheard of, that you can really come into a community and be disruptive in a good way and change a lot of things in communities. So can you tell us about the need for a violence interruption program in Charlotte and how the Cure Violence model has impacted violent crime on Bettisboro, LaSalle, and now on West Boulevard?
Thank you, Sam. So I'll start with the Cure Violence model because that needs some explanation. Is anyone familiar with Cure Violence? Just by raise of hand. All right. So Cure Violence is a evidence-based model that was started in Chicago first. It was research done by a biologist who developed the understanding that violence is a contagion, just like a virus is. Meaning, if one person begins to behave violently, they can impact others violently, and then you have this ripple effect, like we saw with COVID. One person gets it and it spreads and then it continues to spread. And that's how violence begins to take a full grip on communities, right? So how do we address violence? We attack it at the root. We figure out what is happening in the community, why it's happening, and how it's spreading. If it's gang violence, if it's turf wars, if it's drug disputes, then we want to really understand it at its root. What's happening? How is it directed? And from a staff perspective, our staff are trained to go out into the community and to build relationships and make connections with those key players, we call them key individuals in the community, who either are directly involved with the conflict or who may have been impacted by the conflict. So our first strategy is to determine what's taking place. You know, what's the conflict all about? How is it starting and how is it spreading? And we want to intervene. Intervening could be mediating conflict. It could be stopping a shooting before it happens, meaning if we know there's a beef going on, there's the potential for someone to retaliate, right? So we have to dig deep and build those relationships and be aware of what's taking place in the community. And the last piece is changing the culture. Changing the culture is done by us having a constant presence in the community, spreading the message of peace and unity and just a love for each other and love for the community. I often hear from our seniors in the community that they remember a different time where people didn't fight and shoot each other. And we want to take that message and bring it to the forefront and really help families and help those within those corridors to develop the ability to mediate conflict on their own. There's not always going to be a presence, right? We don't want to always rely on the police to come out and piece things together after the violence taking place. So our goal is to get ahead of the violence, to get ahead of the situations before they turn violent, and to help connect people to the resources that they need. It could be something as simple as someone being hungry and committing a robbery, and then that leads to a ripple effect. So if we can connect people to the resources that they need, if we can connect them to mental health services, housing, job skill development, then we see these decreases in violence over time.
Yeah, before I go to you, Ricky, I know I said I wasn't doing a follow-up, but I think it's important to, if you could tell the story about the incident that happened on West Boulevard at the gas station. Was that you? I mean, I'll say before I go to Ricky, if you could tell the story about an incident at the mobile gas station on West Boulevard when you all were canvassing that area. Because I think that resonates a little bit as to the work you all do with the kids who are still in the Step Out the Store.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you highlighted that because these are the incidents that occur that don't make the news. The incidents that occur where we are present and you never hear about. I'm not out in the community every single day, but this is one opportunity that I was actually present and got to experience for myself, which allows me to take that experience to share with you all. We were canvassing, which means our team is out in the community, just walking around, talking to community members, handing out flyers and food. And I had a chance to observed a group of kids. I think the youngest one was probably 6 or 7 years old, and the oldest was probably 12. And they went into the convenience store, and we just saw them running. So we didn't know what took place. The only reason why we saw them running is because they were running through the middle of the traffic. It's West Boulevard and Remount. It was about 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If anyone has ever driven through there, you know, it's bumper to bumper traffic. So these kids stopped traffic and they left a trail of snacks behind. So they literally were running in the store and just stealing snacks, right? They left the trail, the store owner came out. He knows the team because they're always there present. And he just told us, like, hey, they're just stealing. And so we went over and began to pick the items up and return them to the store owner. Most of the time, when we see things like this happen, the very first thought is to get those kids and to discipline them, lock them up. But they literally were stealing snacks. They weren't stealing cigarettes. They weren't stealing, you know, any other supplies or anything. They were taking snacks. So that prompted to begin to deliver snacks more frequently in that area because we know there are kids there who are hungry. And some people may say, well, they need food. Yeah, well, what if they just wanted snacks, right? What if they needed a snack in between meals? Can we make sure that we're able to meet their needs and prevent them from getting hurt, or prevent the store owner from retaliating, and prevent the police from coming out and possibly mishandling one of them? Yes, that's our job, and that's our responsibility. So thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely. And again, I just think that resonated a lot with the impact of the work that's happening with ATV. So Ricky, I'll go to you. Quasi did a good job kind of explaining what ATV is. But with the expansion of Nations Forward comes a lot of challenges because I look at Nations Forward as a breeding ground of diversity. We typically think of Central and Plaza, but when you go on that side of town, there's a million different communities that's on that side of town. So can you speak a little bit about some of the challenges that that ATV Nations Forward has encountered as you all are looking to expand in that specific corridor?
Yeah. And I think some of the challenges I speak about today might be the same in the other two corridors too, but I think the first is kind of helping to rid the stigma of violence interruption. When people hear the word violence, this is actually something where you may want to follow up and get more information on it. You kind of move on from it. So we have been facing challenges, but haven't overcome them through community meetings, but helping to educate communities about what violence interruption is, how everyone plays a role in, like Gracie said, around changing the culture. Particularly in Nations Forward Road, and I want to say Latinx, but there are, you know, tens and hundreds of subcultures of Latinx origin in that area. So I'm using a broad term, but that in itself is its own challenge, right? So getting to understand the Ecuadorian community, getting to understand the Guatemalan community, and then understanding in those subcultures the community members of each culture. That has been a challenge, but I would say a positive. It's one that we've been looking forward to. We've been utilizing some interns from UNCC who are going through their master's program in social work. Many of them are bilingual and have been able to set up and do meetings with us, so language doesn't become a barrier. But I think education about the work that we do, the impact, the cure violence model, the helping to shift violence interruption to not being punitive in nature, but a public health approach and a root cause scenario has been something that has been a challenge, but it's been a great year to help to educate the community about the work that we do and the impact it has and has had over the country in a variety of cities that have experienced violence. I think even more so having conversations and opportunities like this to have positive, open discussions around violence interruption has been the most helpful we've had in Nations Forward Road.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you, Ricky. Next, we'll move to Center for Employment Opportunities. So Ms. Tiffany Miller. Tiffany, some of the things I highlight when I'm talking to the communities of donors alike is the average wage that some of our brothers and sisters who are returning back to society or to the community, the average wage that they're making from day one when they interact with CEO. And that average wage is upwards of $16 an hour. I don't know about many of you in this room. I've never been justice involved, but I know the struggle because I have a lot of friends and family who've been justice involved of coming out of the jail and prison pipeline and just trying to find a job. And being able to land a job paying you upwards of $16 an hour. In addition to that, you have all these other wraparound services and support that CEO provides. So, Tiffany, can you speak a little bit about the transitioning from jail to prison and how challenging the journey, particularly for Black and Brown individuals, can be? And how does CEO best support these individuals in their transition process back home, considering their unique needs and experiences?
No problem. So I like to always use an example. When you are in prison, every day you know where you're going to live, you know what you're going to wear, you know what you're going to eat, you know what you're going to do throughout that day, correct? And so whenever they come out of prison, then they are oftentimes not privy to those things. And that's where CEO comes in. We have partnerships with community partners that help us to provide housing, to also help us provide food and clothing to those individuals who need that assistance. And the biggest one that we provide is that we have a job readiness training. So we have those individuals working on resumes. We have those individuals showing, because they work on a transitional crew that is housed by the city or the county of Mecklenburg. Those are 2 crews. They are working on jobs with site supervisors who are giving them real-time feedback on how to improve their skills, making them more marketable, so that when they come to our office with our job developers and our job coaches who are working with community partners, they're also being able to market them and say, hey, we know that these skills are present. We know what they look like. We know what they can do. And those who are coming out of prison oftentimes do not have those resources. So by coming to CEO and building those resources, giving them that skill set, giving them that mindset, then they're able to transition to community partners that are paying upwards of $15, $16 coming out of jail, and not just minimum wage. Even with working with us, with our transitional work crews, they do get paid $12 an hour, and they get paid every single day. So imagine coming out of prison, not having any money, not having any resources, but being able to every day receive your paycheck so that you can provide those resources that you need just to survive and to live. So those are the things that CEO assists in, and we only can do it through the support of our community and our community partners.
Awesome, thank you, Tiffany. And then lastly, we will go over to Farrar with Inner Explorer. So Inner Explorer was expanded to Charlotte last year. Part of the reason why we explored the mental health space is that in 2020, leading up to after COVID and getting kids back into school, the school system and us as a community saw a spike in the mental health crisis, specifically for K-12 students. So for us at GreenLight, it was a no-brainer that a program that have an evidence-based over 10,000 indicators on how if teachers follow this 5 to 10 minute audio-guided program over time, you'll see a lot of different changes in behaviors in the classroom and things like that. Great improvement overall. So Farrar, can you speak to in what ways can parents and children work together to promote mental health or well-being in today's fast-paced and often stressful world?
Yeah, of course. First off, we gotta identify the problem, right? As parents, we have to know what the problem is within our communities and within our school systems and what's going on with our children. 37% of our children have felt loneliness or depression. 20% have thought about committing suicide. Problem. So as parents, we have to know these problems and be able to have these tough conversations with our children and also put them in a position to have resources to combat some of these issues. So now you have a audio-guided platform like Inner Explorer, educating yourself on that, knowing what benefits it has for my child, what benefits it has for my children's friends, what benefits it has for the educators that are teaching my children. Also creating daily practices, taking a moment to breathe, taking a moment to walk with your children, just getting more involved so that we know that with these issues that you're going into the building with, because again, depression and loneliness, this is before we even touch the books. This is even before we even discuss what the next problem is, what the next test is. They're coming into the building this way, right? So we want to make sure that we're giving them the proper resources as they're coming into the building so they can be successful. Also, creating a team with the children, with your child, letting them know that they're not in this by themselves. You're not dealing with this, and you're not just a loner. You have someone who understands the feelings that you have. You know, I've been there, right? Letting them know that I've been you before. So just having those grounds and understandings of what our children are coming into the building and how I can be a source of resource for my child, I would say what we can do.
Awesome. Before we turn it over, I'll just add a couple more highlights to Inner Explorer. So Inner Explorer will this month will make it a whole year since we expanded the program in Charlotte. And within this year, this program has touched well over 17,000 kids in our community. That's 17,000 lives that has been impacted from a mental capacity. So think about that for a second. So this program is effective. It works. I'm proud to say that we were able to secure a MOU with CMS. So the goal is to get this program across the district and ensuring that every student and their parents have access to this program. So whatever that kid is learning in the classroom that day, whatever experience they experience in this guided program that day, when they get home, their parents can also engage in that same experience with them. That's a game changer. So with that said, I will turn it back over to group for Q&A.
Thank you. We have Tommy Robinson that will speak first. Then we have an online question, and then Roslyn, and then Donnell, and then another online. Okay.
Okay.
And, so go ahead, Tommy.
I come in here week after week, and we always have guest speakers who are talking about jobs. Do anybody ever talk about entrepreneurship? Because America was built on entrepreneurship, you know, and I don't have anything against jobs. You know, I hire people every now and then myself, but why don't the different organizations concentrate on entrepreneurship?
You can use your other mic. You have to have that when you go around the room.
So I'll speak to that only because GreenLight is responsible for bringing this organization to the local community. So how I answer that is that, so I mentioned every year we do a selection process. So we come into the community, we're going to come into this forum, we're going to ask this forum, let's talk about what are some things, what are some areas, what are some gaps that you're overseeing, and how can we help plug those gaps. So entrepreneurship is an area that the community wants to explore. That's an area that GreenLight can actually look into and say, let's see, when you talk about entrepreneurship, there's a million different layers that comes with that, right? So how are we digging deeper into entrepreneurship, and how will the community respond to that? So the reason why none of our portfolio organizations talk about entrepreneurship is because they are all direct service organizations. So everything we bring into the local ecosystem is to do direct service work. Now, GreenLight can explore entrepreneurship in our next cycle, if that's what the direction the research is showing, that's the direction that the community is showing. But for the sake of the organizations, they primarily focus on direct service. Everything we bring in is direct service focused.
All right, we have an online question from West Side Community Leader, Mr. Brian Ross, for ATV. From a community perspective, there appears to be still high incidence of crime in our community. Kudos to the organization for successful interventions. A lot of the community is unaware of your presence. Community leaders were asked for input prior to ATV coming to Charlotte, but have not engaged since. How is ATV engaging with community/neighborhood leaders to address their concerns?
Appreciate the question. You said he's in the west?
Beatties Ford corridor.
He's in the Beatties Ford corridor?
Correct.
All right. As the program manager, that's my job. 90% of my work is trying to build those connections and relationships. And we're always open to connect with people in the community. I've been working with this program for the last 6 months or so, actually going on 7 months now, and I've never rejected or denied or refused anybody who wanted to partner with us. So if the gentleman would like to reach out to me, he can definitely, and we would help in strategizing and doing what we can as a community partner to engage the way that we can. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing is people see incidents take place and they have the misconception that we're crime fighters, like superheroes, or we're supposed to attend to every violent incident that takes place within the corridor, but that's not what we do. We don't do the work of the police, we don't investigate. What we do is try to find out how to mediate the conflict when it happens, and first and foremost, to connect with individuals who are most high risk. And I always try to make it clear what high risk means is that these are individuals who are engaged in violent behavior or have been impacted by violence themselves. And as I said earlier, a lot of times it's very difficult to make inroads with individuals who've lived the last 10, 20 years not having a job, being incarcerated, being homeless, and being denied access to resources. So that's a very tough task. We may communicate with 50 individuals on a weekly basis, and we may get 5 that are willing to open up and just ask for help. Unfortunately, you're serving high-risk communities, Black and brown populations. Again, there's generations of people experiencing unemployment, underemployment, homelessness, drug addiction. It's very difficult to build trust first and foremost after being abused by a system that only wants to lock you up, right? So it's our goal to make those connections and bring those people in. And like I said, we're open. If anyone wants to reach out to me, they can.
Would you give him information to reach out to you directly through an email or a telephone number?
Absolutely, and thank you for that. My email address is probably the best way. It's KAMPONSA@yapinc.org. KAM like Mary, PON like Nancy, SA@yapinc.org.
No.
My question was about it.
My question was about evaluation, and they are so different and in different stages. There's no way to ask a question in one question, so I'm going to pass the mic. Center for Tiffany. Do you mind if I call you Tiffany? Okay, thank you. You mentioned providing housing, job readiness, training opportunities for those who are incarcerated when they get out. I can't articulate it well, but I just saw something with Sheriff McFadden and some resources that they are providing within the penal system. Can you expound on that and how that will complement or how you all may be working together with those programs?
Yes, ma'am. It's definitely a compliment. So the more people we can do, get to join in and partner with the work that we're doing in this community, it'll be great. So what Chef McFadden has now done is that he is working with a group of 60 individuals that are being directly released from incarceration to help them with job readiness training, to also provide housing and to provide a stipend to them so that they're able to use that stipend to pay for things that are needed, such as rent and utilities and those particular things. It's going to be an addition to what CEO is already doing, because CEO partners with those other individuals, such as Roof Above, to do housing. And then we partner with the Goodwill and different places to provide additional training. So it's just all of these individual groups joining together to work together to make sure that we service more people.
All right, we have another question from an online viewer. Each organization, so what would be one thing your organization would do if money was no object? And
I'll start it. First thing we would do is we would make sure that it's in every school. Because What we need is for every one of our students, every one of our teachers, every one of our parents to have this mental capacity at a level where they can change the world, right? We are teaching our future presidents, our future doctors, our future educators, and we have to make sure that they have the mental capacity to perform at a high level. So with no problem with money and everybody can have the program, we're going to put it in every corner, every school, every after-school program, every home, just so they have that resource ready and available.
But you keep your answers to a minute or less because we're running out of time. Just the one wish you had if money wasn't an object.
We would increase staff. And then for me, I think we would do more in-school preventative programming in our schools around our county.
Expansion would be my response to that. We would want to make sure that we are touching all of the cultures that are here in Charlotte. And right now, with money being a barrier to that, we just can't do that.
I'll say ditto.
For me, from my perspective, from what I see on a day-to-day is the need for housing, mental health services, and drug treatment services.
Okay, I'm next. My question is, the guy that works out at Nations.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with the language? Do you speak different languages? How are you dealing with the different languages?
Yeah. So I think that goes with our relationship with community members. We have great relationships with HOAs and neighborhood associations in Nations Ford Road that help to assist us with the language barriers. And I think the language barriers, there's dialect barriers. So there's different dialects of Spanish that exist in that area. So we partner with those associations to help have deeper conversations. We're also we always continue to bring in a pool of candidates to hire for staffing that are bilingual. But as you can imagine, this work sometimes has a stigma attached to it. And that tends to be a challenge for people that might be interested in doing this kind of work. But we partner with the community to help us with the language barriers.
Just quickly.
Yeah.
Are any of you bilingual?
I am not.
Okay, thank you. Mr. You're next.
Yes, I just wanted to know, what does collaboration look like internally? Is there an internal pipeline that goes from Inner Explorer, from alternative violence to maybe my brother's keeper to, so on. So it seems like such an organic opportunity for cohesiveness. I wanted to just kind of expand on that.
That's a great question, most important question, because none of us can achieve our objectives isolated, right? We need to be able to depend on each other and work together. As I was telling the caller online, that's something that I have to do. I'm always constantly meeting people, asking to meet. I do constant emails and text messages every day. Unfortunately, a lot of times, we get competing interests, and people might not want to engage for whatever reason, but I think it's something that we should always be open to and try to constantly build those relationships.
Laura, do you have me for a question? Do you have me down for a question? Because I raised my hand. Oh, I'm sorry. But I was just demonstrating.
We have a facilitator point of
You got 30 seconds left.
Thank you. This is for the director. You mentioned that they chose Charlotte because of those horrible statistics that we were 50 out of 50. And then you said you look nationwide for organizations. And I guess to me the logical question is, did you look local first before you went national to find organizations?
That's a good question. And I'll answer it in the easiest way I can explain it, and I can speak a little bit more with you after. So the way our model is set up, we don't do any local funding. Part of it is because our role in the community is to fill gaps. So we bring evidence-based program that can be complementary to things that are already happening. And personally, how I look at it is that Because I've been with the United where I've been funding organizations, and what we see is you fund a million different organizations, everybody's doing the same thing, but the needle is not moving. What we're doing is putting band-aids on the issue. The problem there is that there's a gap there that no one has identified, and that's the role that GreenLight plays. So we don't do any local funding. We identify a gap in something that's happening, and we bring in the organization to kind of help plug that gap a little bit. And that's what all of these portfolio organizations do. So no local funding, but we're helping support the ecosystem to move the needle in different spaces.
Can I speak to that?
Yes. I think you only got 30 seconds, but yes.
So the organization that I work for is called the Youth Advocate Program. Youth Advocate Programs, it's actually celebrating its 50 years in existence right now. And we're in 36 states. I grew up in New Jersey. I came down here in my late teens. I've been here ever since. Formerly incarcerated, been through the residential care as a teen. And I was actually a participant in the Youth Advocate Program in New Jersey. The Youth Advocate Program came to Charlotte around 2019 or so. And for me, it was like a godsend because I know the impact that it had in my life, right? So now here I am, a complete 180. I'm a program manager within the organization, right? It's like hallelujah, right? Having hundreds of nonprofit organizations in one area doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have the outcomes that a national organization with a history would have. I think everybody you can talk to on the street nowadays has a 501c3 and they're trying to get the funding and they're angry because this other organization got it and my organization didn't get it. But one thing that makes something successful is having the years of trial and error, the years and the decades of persistence, and being able to speak to the outcomes and show the actual data of the outcomes that you get. That's very, very important. I had a 501c3 that I operated for 4 years. So I know from experience that just because you have it doesn't mean you're going to get the money. Doesn't mean that you're going to get outcomes. It doesn't mean that you're actually doing the work that you say you're going to do. And unfortunately, we have to go with those agencies and organizations that have proven success records.
Hey, my name is Jay Hill. First, I want to thank you for all the amazing work that you all are doing in the community. It's truly appreciated. My question is for Sam and my brother from ATB. I'm from West Boulevard. My parents have lived there since 1969. They live in Barron's Woods, right across from Stratford Y. They're 80 years old. So I go over there every week to check on them and make sure they're good. Go to Reed's Barbershop up near Reed Park. I guess my question to you specifically is, you touched on it, but do you have relationships with individuals or members of that community on West Boulevard that will help you? Maybe OGs like I know Gemini Bullway from Project Bold, Tijuana Brown, who are from West Boulevard, and then also what do you need from the community to help you do your work?
Thank you so much. Valuable questions, and I appreciate it. So our site supervisor for the West Boulevard team is Donnell Gardner. Everybody calls him Dink. He's involved with several other organizations. He's been working in the community for, from what I know, the last 10 years or more. So we try our best to recruit our staff directly from the corridor. So I can't go down the full team roster, but everyone is directly from West Boulevard, from Boulevard Homes, from Park Heights, and they go, like I said, go back into that community after they live the experience and they do the work. As far as partnering with other agencies and organizations, it's like a desperate thing you have to do, almost like pulling teeth to get people to come on board and to understand what partnership and collaboration means. It means that we have a vested interest in what we're trying to do. We're not competing against each other. And if I have some resources that I can share, I do it. A lot of times people just look and see, well, y'all got all that money. Why don't you just give us something? It just doesn't work that way, right? So, like I've said several times, we're open to work with and partner with anyone in the corridor that we can. And I always encourage people to reach out and ask what we can do and how can we do it. And we never reject or deny the opportunity to work with them. No one can tell you, Quincy, program manager, ever said, I can't help you. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and if I just add 10 seconds. So the board in that, so each of these portfolio organizations has an advisory board, and specifically for ATV and West Boulevard, that advisory board is made of folks that live in that specific corridor. And I'm not going to say no names, but we have a lot of folks that are in that corridor who are supporting the work that ATV is doing, and we lean on those individuals to tell us also tell ATV how do they penetrate the corridor.
Be a good board member. We'll talk. Yeah. Come on board.
Okay, my question is for this young man with the Baby Sport Road area.
Get all the folks there.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
But I'm a member of HAWENA, which is the Historic West End Neighborhood Association. And we haven't really heard of you. We know that you're out there, but don't you think it would be great if you would, if we could partner, because we are the presidents of the neighborhoods along the corridor. And it seems like what you're doing is in isolation of the neighborhoods in the corridor, because we could be your biggest supporters. So I'm just kind of like Ron Ross said, that we just need to know that you're there. We know you're there, but we don't know you. So is there any way that that we could connect some type of way?
Like a stealth group.
And
So Sam made a very valuable point. We have an advisory committee that meets for literally 30 minutes, one time a month. That's another thing. I send invitations out. People say they're coming and they never show up. It's virtual, one time a month for 30 minutes. I even started inviting people to do lunch on me just so we can have those conversations that we need. So I would encourage you. We can talk, and we just got Tripoli from Lincoln Heights to join our advisory committee. So there's opportunities.
So there's 2 new members right there.
All right, time is not 9:45, so 30 seconds per question, 30 seconds per answer, please.
My question is for the ATV. How do you have, how many staff do you have? Where are you physically present? Like,
Yeah.
physically?
So I can speak to Nations Ford Roads. We are on Old Pineville Road. I would say about 2 minutes from Tybola, where Costco is, 1 minute from the new Compare Foods. We are located in the CW, right above CW Williams, their new site, 5800 Old Pineville Road. Our current direct service staff is a staff of 4. And then we have support staff with Urban League of Central Carolinas, which is located on Uptown on 5th Street.
We have 2 teams, one that services the West Boulevard corridor and the other that services the Days 4 corridor. So just to explain how this type of work actually works, right? Our teams spend time out in the street, what they call canvassing. So they may be out on West Boulevard, they may be out in the projects in Little Rock. We did a big cookout just this Saturday. We're out there for 4 hours handing out food. Betty's Ford, most of the time spent on Catherine Simmons. So we're just in and out of the streets and the neighborhoods, just talking to people, and a lot of times just handing out food and building relationships. Oh, staff, we have 7 on West Boulevard and 5 on Betty's Ford.
All right, Mr. Reefer, 30 seconds.
I don't know about the song. My question is very simple. What level at the schools do you start?
Yeah, so we do preventative work at middle and high schools located around the Nations Ford area. We're particularly been focused in on Pace High School, which is a high school in Waddell's campus, specifically serving newcomers and students that are new to the country, getting them acclimated, but also connecting with them. Many of them are having to make the decision between school and work, which also aids in chronic absenteeism, which aids in people being outside and making different decisions. So we would say middle school, but we've really pushed it harder on high school, particularly in that area.
Yeah.
Our program only services those who are 18 and above, because we are once you've been justly involved, been in incarceration, so 18 and above.
And we serve children ages 16 to 18 months, depending on their maturity, up to 4 years. So our goal is to basically hand them off to the pre-K program.
We start early learning, make pre-K, all the way up to 12th grade to seniors.
Yeah, my question is, like, do you teach these young people how to do anything? Do you teach them jobs? Do you teach them crafts? Do you teach them trades? Do you just talk to them? What do you do with them?
I can answer mine real quick. Yeah, for us, we do conflict resolution skills and techniques in schools to hopefully it doesn't spread outside the school for conflicts.
For our particular program, as I said before, we do skill readiness training, and also we provide nationwide training. So you can get a CDL with us, HVAC, IT, all of those things that make you more marketable to be able to service and find employment, career readiness. That's our job.
This is for the gentleman to the left, for the mental health, what does that actually look like in the schools? Is that a after-school program? How do you implement that into the curriculum?
Multiple ways. For one, we have a whole school concept. First is 180 audio guided practices that you can do. 5 to 10 minutes where you'll log in as an educator, pull it up onto the screen, and it'll basically guide you through that 5 to 10 minutes. You can do it in after school as well as you can do it as early as your morning meetings in your school day. So that's where you implement it.
Good morning. Just to hear GreenLight and what organizations that are here, I thank you for your work. But my issue comes in when I hear ATV, I hear schools. I would like to know, is there a way for GreenLight funding to start looking at those programs that do not work and seeing how we could, and I don't want to disperse anybody's programs and organizations, but it seems as though there's a lot of funding that's going places that should not be going. And if we don't get it right soon, you know, I don't know what's getting ready to happen, but it just seems as though we keep funding and funding and funding these programs, and the programs are not working, especially on Babies Florida Road, because I'm there. I have an organization that's on Catherine Simmons, and I see the issues. And I'm not saying that it's not working, but it's not working enough. In the schools, I see that the teachers are having barriers with language, and that's a big problem. Social services need to be back into those schools.
So to ask you a question.
Yes.
You're kind of doing commentary now.
I am. I think people need to really know. So the goal is for me to see if GreenLight funding can look at doing some type of funding for social services within the schools and making sure ATV is in the right places at the right time. So, can I?
Yep. What I would say, and I'll give it to Ms. Andrew really quick, is that what makes GreenLight unique is that we only extend organizations that have an evidence-based approach to that model. Just like anything else, when you're looking at evidence-based, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. What we have been very proud of is that ATV, Parent Child Plus, Inner Explorer, and CEO, these have been high impact organizations that have true data that supports their work. So within the first 3-4 years of them being here in Charlotte, they've already demonstrated that through the work that they do, they're able to move the needle in various indicators based on what they're doing. So we don't look at anything that's not going to work. We only bring or expand organizations locally that are going to work. Now, we do not do any local funding. All of our funding is positioned to fill in specific gaps within communities. So hopefully that answers your question. Now, the other part to that is we are going to start a selection process. Sometime next year, we're going to be looking at the next organization that we will want to expand in Charlotte. We'd love to have conversations as to what that could look like. You mentioned social services, where there's a lot of layers within social services, right? What does the community specifically want to see within the social service space? And we can explore that. We can see if the data warrants us looking at organizations that want to come into that.
Language barriers.
Okay, so we'd like to do right now is just, we don't have a lot of time, but give each one of you 30 seconds with the last word of encouragement or invitation to join you or what have you, just 30 seconds. And we'll start at the very end. If you could pass that mic down to him.
Real simple. Get involved in your PTAs, in your parent groups. Get involved. Get them educated on why it's important to have mental health programs within the school system.
I just want to say thank you all for inviting us here today. I'm Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, born and raised, Batesford Road, West Trade Street, Bisbee, and all that good stuff too. So I come here not only representing parent-child points, but also as a citizen in Mecklenburg County. And I understand more than anybody the importance of Tuesday morning breakfast and what this has meant to our community over the years, especially from a political perspective. And the other quick thing is GreenLight. Sam does not give himself enough credit. We really want to thank you all for, it is so hard finding funding when you're coming into an area new. I don't care what your statistics are nationally, Mecklenburg County wants to know what you've done here. So it's very difficult getting funding, and GreenLight basically stepped out on a limb to say, we will get you through that hard time. I've sunsetted out, so GreenLight no longer funds us from an actual dollar perspective, but what Sam still provides to me in relationship, in richness, in opportunities like this, he's still our partner. So just thank you to GreenLight for all of us being here. We appreciate you all.
I definitely wanted to say the same thing about Sam, so I'll just say it this way. Make sure that we're in collaboration and not competition. If we all work together to achieve those goals, then we can move the needle in Charlotte. We're not competing against each other. We're working together to make sure every citizen receives the services that they so richly deserve and so richly need.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments. Also, Batesford Road, this is a historic forum. Can't be enough honor to be here with GreenLight and other partners. I'll share my contact info to share out. Always looking to have deeper conversations on violence prevention, both starting with the schools and the nation's sport area.
I'm just kind of lift up what Farad said and support the same sentiments. Get involved. That's just very simple. Get involved. If you have questions, if you want to build relationship, if you want to share resources, again, Sam made a very great point. We have an advisory committee. People from the community can come into the organization and tell us how we can be better, help us to be better, help us to reach our goals and our outcomes. It's not our program, it's the community's program. It's not our money, it's not our funding, it's the community's. The goal is to help save lives. We save one life, that's what we're doing, we're saving lives, one life at a time.
Yeah, and I want to first start by just telling the forum, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to share about our work and the great things these portfolio organizations are doing in the community. We will be back when we start our selection advisory process. We'll reach out to the forum and see if we will come and talk to the community about what are some areas that you all would like us to explore for what the next program that we're going to bring. I also want to thank each of the leaders here from our portfolio organizations because they're the ones making the work happen. I get the privilege to just fund them and sit back, but they're the ones actually in the streets doing the work. So thank you all for all that you do and thank the forum. And simply for GreenLight, if you want to get involved with us, we have opportunity for you to sit on our advisory board. We are looking for community members that can help direct and inform us and move the work forward. There are other opportunities to collaborate. You can subscribe to our newsletter. But I want to encourage each of you to join the advisory board for one of these organizations, and I will guarantee you it will be worth your while. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. Sam comes often, and we invite, if you can get a staff person to come back to Tuesday Forum, because there's a lot of networking that will be going on after we close at 10 o'clock. So once again, thank you all so much, and you shared a lot with us this morning. And just continue to be with us, and all of you are doing an excellent job. Just continue, and just pay attention to what they're asking you, because they're going to ask you again if you come back, if you haven't acted on. So thanks again. You all have a good day, a good week, and please partake some of the goodies that they brought us. Well, thank you for that as well. We used to be the Tuesday morning breakfast forum, but we only serve coffee. So we have breakfast this morning. Thank you, everybody.
And if you have announcements, please send them to Steve at sjohnston@tuesdayforumcharlotte.org.